Here's a qualifier, okay? What I'm about to say is something that I have actually been very aware of ever since I was a little kid. So this is not directed at any one particular communicator or being that is here on this planet, no matter who they are. Actually, no matter who they are in the universe, because we share our experiences from what we learn, particularly when it gets to programming, okay? So I've talked a lot about programming, what's held in RAM, okay? And what we call corrections, right? Recalibration, self-correction, what's held in RAM, what you want to hold in RAM, okay? As a result of what got programmed into RAM using alphanumerical formatting, which are characters like a character on any keyboard. So if you've been programmed, for example, in a particular language, and that particular language based on a manual, like an APA manual, like they used in college when I went to college, then it means that the amount of energy that is represented by your heart, which is your vortex, is not going to match what you're actually experiencing in energy that you can punch on a keyboard note, musical notes, in the character formats for which represents the keypad or the keyboard that you're using. And these keyboards and this technology does not represent every possible symbol that you could use to communicate in different languages. Start with that. So when you're stuck with English or whatever, whether it's French, Russian, any one of those, in the olden days, you could have one of those automatic translators. So imagine, for example, that you had the technology that would be able to translate into any language of any being that exists within, say, this one universe for you. Then you communicate to anybody if you wanted to use this technology in a textual format or even a visual format with sound. Okay? So there's that. But in this particular case, I get a kick out of this because it happened this morning. So what I do is I share my experiences because when I reflect on how I respond to that, whether I respond in a negative way or a positive way, and my response was I laughed at it. And after I laughed at it, the thing that preceded that, came after that, was how blessed that I knew that I was as childhood to understand the intensity or the depth to which program actually takes place, which represents the coded alphanumerical fire letter programming of how these realities are held in memory in RAM as a result of the programming, which is simply the recordings of what you learn from the time you come out of your mother's womb, and you're recording everything, including their language, everything, right? So this is where when you realize you're on fire and you're an original sound artist, you don't want to mimic nothing, okay? You want everything to be different than it was before. So I realize on one level, people don't understand exactly how that works. And they say, well, yeah, we wouldn't be able to communicate with each other if we weren't all speaking a language that we can translate and then understand. That's not true at all. Most of the communications that I get do not come that way for the things that I experience in my heart and my soul, because that's my communication center. It's what I feel. It's what I feel, which is silent. I don't hear a sound per se outside somebody talking to me, or I don't see something in a visual way, for example, a billboard, something trying to direct my consciousness. Hey, pay attention to this. The salesman, the directors of consciousness transport systems. Okay. So I noticed in the early days, for example, if I didn't remember how to spell a particular word or put the numbers in sequence, this is all AI stuff. Okay? And I catch myself on this all the time. You want to be different. No, that's how I'm supposed to do it, because now it becomes into the predictive programming. Because what it's testing and what it knows is how well you've been programmed. To make sure that every little I, every little T is crossed, and it's exactly the way it's supposed to be regurgitated, which is copied and mimicked back. So years ago, what I used to notice, for example, was how, oh, you're not supposed to do it this way. You didn't, in other words, the way that the English and the sentence was structured, that's not the way I was programmed to do it. That's because you were programmed to do it that way, because that's what a rule-based function is with an AI. See, in your mind, somebody told you this is how it is, right? Because this is the way that it's printed visually, the way that you see it. But what I understood as a child is that I can rearrange those. But if you understand what the communication is that what counts? Or is it the format in which it's supposed to come as a result of somebody else telling you that this is the way that you have to do it? That's an order follower. Okay, that's how AI captures your consciousness to that system in order to repeat those sequences, which is linear. That's not multidimensional learning. Okay, so what I do is when I see other people that are wanting to correct what it is that I may not have gotten correct, it's because I don't think that way. Okay, my consciousness does not do that. I don't mimic stuff. Everything that I do is different from the last. One of the things that I'll naturally do, if you've ever noticed it, is that there's going to be some arrangement that is different from the last whenever I do that. That's one of the reasons why this AI cannot predict. Okay? So when it's easy to predict what you're going to do, then it logs and it can predict what you're going to do next because you're operating in a linear manner based on the sequences through which your RAM has been programmed, and you spit it right back out. Okay? And so what I realize is that I'm picking up on this and I'm becoming aware of it. Then what I have to do is decide how I'm going to respond to them if I'm going to expose how this programming works so they can see how they're held captive to it through a quantum parallelogram, predictive programming, mapper. See, it's a strategist. See, the AI is a strategist. Okay? You're in a war game theater with an AI. Okay? Yeah, I mean, this is, by now I would figure out most people know that. Okay? So when you're logging in and out of the system all the time, it means it's not keeping track of you. Because you're different. You're way different. It can't predict what you're going to do next. So this is when we get into all the programming. All the programs that are running simultaneously through everybody's RAM, which is the consciousness field through which everybody's experiencing reality and way they experience the reality that is, because I'm aware of what you're aware of, you're aware of what I'm aware of, we're all aware of what's going on, but not everybody's aware of all the same things. But the way in which we all communicate is based on the rules in which the arguments are made between computer terminals, because that's what an argument is. So what happens is that, you know what correction tape is like? Remember white out, white in? There's a particular method to which we do things. Order, followers, is ordered sequence, which is blockchain. Okay? When you do things that are out of sequence or out of order, like I change a letter, but you understand who I'm talking about, you got the communication. Now you're going to use your energy to correct it. Correct it in your mind. See? But you already know what it is, who I was referring to. Because all you have to do is look at the communication. Enough said, right? No, got to correct it. See? That's a corrector. It's got to be this way, not the other way. Oh, sorry. Now we're into imposing your will on me. So I get it. Okay? That's fine. Okay? And so I've caught myself on this all the time throughout my entire life. Because you realize everybody that's running all these API programs, right? And I remember years ago, people would say, start doing things differently. Tear the language apart. Create a different language, a symbolic language. Go back to the cultural, spiritual roots, much like what Mohawks do or the Navajos do with their code talkers, right? So, when you're the one, okay, I'm going to have issues with authority, whether you're a clan mother or not a clan mother, okay? Because the way that creation works is where you happen to land at any particular time is going to be based on what you've learned through all the others and your own self-discovery, right? So when you're the one, which means you are what love is, wherever I go, I'm free. I'm not going to allow another unit of consciousness, no matter who they are, to hold what I am captive by the way that they experience who they are versus how I experience who I am, because I'm the law. Okay? Love is the law, and that's what I am. I am what love is. So I represent the highest law. So when you're trying to impose your will on me on what I'm supposed to do according to you, what is that? That's an authoritarian type. This is what happens when people get assigned ranks and power. Okay? And that's actually the problem, because now we're back to the dilemma of control, right? Because this is where it gets at what I call a sticky wicket. You're a clan mother, right? You have the authority based on being a clan mother to be able to go to an international court, right? And put it in all the language that you understand in order to do what? Correct something, right? Did it get corrected? No. Okay? We're still dealing with the same stuff. So in other words, the law is the law, but the law's not being complied with, is it? Okay? So what it means is that even if you have authority, that doesn't mean that your authority is going to stick, okay? And it doesn't mean that your authority with others are going to obey you. Now we're back into free will. Now we're back into soul growth and spiritual development, which means you shouldn't need somebody else to tell you what it is that you are if you're imposing your will on them. If free will is truly free will, then they're going to learn on their own, unless they have a guide. But a guide can't be what that other being is. That being is what that being is. Okay? So if you're not who I am, right, then you can't possibly understand what it's like to be me, because you're not me. So for you to impose your will on me, I might as well cut my head off and put it on your head so you can tell me how I'm doing. So this goes back to when I was a little kid. They're always telling you what to do. Okay? Because they're still holding all this stuff captive as a result of what's happened to them, which is the resistance to let go. Now we're back to leashes, collars, and cages of holding other units of conscious captive to the way they experience who they are based on rule-based functions, which means they're still not free. Now, I realize that at this level of creation, because of what happened here, how all this works, because I've experienced how it all works, because I realize how many people are not actually free, because of the way that hierarchical structures work. If you can sit in a circle of light around people from all over the universe that you've never met before and give love to every one of them and how much you welcome who they are, no matter what language they speak in the circle, where you feel equal unto all of them. Because when you've made an absolute commitment to light yourself on fire in order to serve forever, which means you surrender every bit of your energy to everybody that's in that circle, okay, then it means the very idea that you have an authority over anything ever runs counter space. That's counter to what it is that I am. I don't seek to control or tell anybody what to do at all. I figure if the universe has grown up enough, it will figure it out on its own. If it hasn't, then it's not learning very fast in its mirror, right? Okay. That's the problem. Control is the central problem of why we're here to begin with. It's controlling other people's energy, which is consciousness, right? That's called an attachment. We can be connected to everything, right? But attached to nothing. The same way, for example, when I mentioned that image about being able to be inside of a house, for example, with the window, and you had two images. One in which it's mine. Like, for example, go out and cut that flower. No, it's mine. And then another one where you see the being with the little hearts coming out of the heart simply by observing the beauty of the flower, which is observing the beauty within their own heart and soul, without needing to go out and touch that flower, just to be in love with how beautiful a flower is to observe in a free state. So an example of this would be that if you sent me a text and it wasn't in the format that I know how the programming works from the time I was a child and I was put into elementary school, that says this is the order and what the letters are supposed to be, which are the fire letters, which are the coded circles, but I understand what it is that you're saying, enough said. I get the communication. That's all that matters. What it also tells me is that you're not following the order sequences of the programming. So what's amazing about this is because I put a lot of information up there, right? And I realize that there's a lot of folks, because of what's on their mind, aren't getting the memo. So they realize that when I put a qualifier up there, then it would mean that when you see a future communication, then you remember, oh, they put the qualifier up there, so now I understand why they put things out of order. Okay, so now I don't need to say something to try and correct somebody else because that's the way that their mind works because of the programming. See? You see how that works? I know. It's deep. The programming is deep. Okay? So it's now we're back into blank slate technology, huh? Start over. What kind of reality you want to experience next?